Rob, you took over as President of Athletics Australia in 2005. What, in your opinion, were the biggest challenges facing the sport at the time, and how did you set about addressing them?
Unfortunately, at the time, the finances had got a little bit out of control. So, as a businessman, one of my first challenges was to bring the income matching the expenses, which we managed to do. Telstra were very good at the time, they're our major sponsor, following from the Sydney Olympics. And so they worked with us, and then by 2006 we were able to show a black figure again, and then we gradually built a reserve over the last 7 or 8 years of my presidency. So I think that was very, very important.
And what drove you to initially accept the presidency?
Well, I think it's an organisational challenge. I love athletics. I've done athletics all my life since a 9-year-old, and our businesses were very much in order, and I'd been moved up to chairman of our businesses, and I was looking for something to do, and Herb Elliott contacted me, and Ken Roach was also involved, and said would I be interested in, so they basically headhunted me whether I'd be interested in taking on the job, and I thought I should act as president and chairman of the board because there was a lot of work to be done. The sport had got a little bit disjointed as well following the Sydney Olympics. A lot of people were going off in different directions. So I saw it as my challenge and my duty to bring the finances and bring the sport back into as much order as I possibly could and give steady, reliable leadership.
And in the 8 years of your tenure, there's been a lot of incredible highs for the sport of athletics in Australia. What are your favourite memories?
Oh, I've loved the World Championships. The Olympics have been wonderful. I'll never forget Steve Hooker in Beijing, not only winning the gold medal and then going on and breaking the Olympic record. And Sally's surprise at getting a silver in Beijing, and then her wonderment of winning in a close race when she wasn't 100% in London, and how beautifully she ran in Daegu, by the way, was fantastic. An unsung hero in Jared Talent. I mean, silver and bronze in Beijing, and a bronze again in London, phenomenal. Still determined to get a gold medal before he retires. And many others. I mean, Danny Samuels, she won the gold medal in the discus in Berlin in 2009 after midnight. It was very much a rain-interrupted event, and she came out and she belted it out. It was just phenomenal. Many, many others, of course. And working with some of the coaches, I love working with the key coaches in our sport, and then the many wonderful people that are in our sport, and the memories of my time in athletics and the people that I've revisited that I hadn't seen for 20 and 30 years at least, to be with them again, and just the culture of Australian athletics I really do very much enjoy.
And obviously the sport has not been without its challenges during your tenure as well, your reign as president. What have been the biggest challenges that you've had to face?
Well, I think the initial challenges were very, very serious, which I think we addressed well. I set about, because I think I was in change management, and it was my job to, form a new board, which I went about doing by invitation with multi-skills. I wanted a multi-skilled board, but I also wanted people who understood the sport of athletics and had a passion for athletics. I felt that the corporate board that we had was effective, maybe up to the Sydney Olympics, but beyond that we needed passionate people and various skills. So I took 2 or 3 years to form the board that exists today, and I think that's been a valuable part of my presidency.
You were a decathlete yourself, a very well-performed decathlete, and competed during what was really a golden era of Australian athletics. Tell us about some of your memories of your competition days.
Oh, it was a marvellous era. I'd played league football with Collingwood as an amateur. There were 4 amateurs in the league at that time, and the reason I was playing as an amateur was so that I could do athletics in the summer. It was much more casual in those days. But following on from the 56 Olympics, just the era, I mean, everywhere you turned there were wonderful athletes performing, and an interclub was fantastic. I remember in the season of 1970-71 I was captain of Victorian Athletics. We had 5,000 registered young men competing in athletics. We didn't compete in the same venue as the women in those days. Interclub was highly competitive, and we were all trying to win each week for our club. I remember Ron Clark running a 400 metres for Glenn Huntley in about 53 or 52 seconds, but just part of the club ethos. And I was handy. I ended up going to Sandringham so I could train there, and where my offices were nearby. And I was a handy import for Sandringham because I could, throw the shot and do all sorts of events and win a few points. And it was a great era. The coaches of that time were absolutely outstanding. And I don't know whether you want me to talk about that just yet.
Yeah, well,
I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we talked. We know that you were really close to. You trained close to guys like Percy Serrachi and Fran Stamps, who were great mentors. Yeah. What were your memories of that?
Yes, well, I've discovered that I was the only person that's actually been coached by both Percy and Franz concurrently, and that was quite a challenge because they were very, very different characters. Percy was a great philosopher, and the impossible is able to be done. It just takes a little bit longer, and his Portsea training camp was an absolute beehive of activity for athletes. It was just marvellous. So we'd go down there and train, and then I realised, obviously, trying to do the decathlon, that I needed to get more technical skills. So fortunately, Franz invited me to Melbourne University, and I trained out there. And an example being the long jump. Percy would say down at the Portsea training camp, at the oval down there, see those trees in the distance, Rob? I want you to imagine you're going to jump over them. And then you'd go to Franz for all the technical side of how you actually would do the long jump. But I tried to get them together at one point, but they were... Percy was in his training style was about the Swedish word fartlek, a speed play. And Franz was about interval training. So they were both extremely effective, and produced Herb Elliott from Percy's point of view, Ralph Dubell from Franz. Just phenomenal. It was just a great, great era. In 1968, we didn't take a lot of men. I think it was only 16 men went to the Mexico Olympics, and we got a lot of top eights and a number of medals as well. And we haven't repeated since 1968 the performance of that particular Olympics. So in athletics, so it was a marvellous era. One night we were training at Olympic Park. We could wander into Olympic Park. I think we paid sixpence or whatever it was in those days. The metric wasn't until 1966 when we changed from the pound to the dollar. And going into Olympic Park, maybe 100 of us were just training away. And Jack Clark, Ron's elder brother, came up to a few of us and said, "Can you cheer Ron, because he's going, I think it was the 3-mile world record." And all the timekeepers were there and everything. He broke the world record in front of about 100 of us. It was amazing.